We are Justine, Robbie, and our doggy Choco. It's been a challenging journey financially, psychologically, and physically. Living and sailing on a boat is not for everyone. In 2015, we started out with a 24-foot CNC sailboat. These are wonderfully little mass-produced plastic vessels. At 24 feet, My Way sailed from Canada to Mexico, and she only snapped her rudder when a freak wave hit near Cabo San Lucas.
Homemade rudder. We got a dual rudder on the boat.
I'm going to bring up on the screen Facebook Marketplace. I wanted to answer the question, how did we buy a boat?
We have always asked why, when, how.
Who, what, where, why.
Who, what, where, and how.
For example, the boat that we're on was a gifted boat to us.
Yeah,
as
so-called
well
free boat.
Yes, we've had two free boats. The boat before that, Rosa, we also were gifted. Of course, every boat we've ever had cost more than the asking price. Every boat we've ever had cost more than the initial buy price.
Do you buy a cheap boat and then spend a lot of money on it? Or do you spend a bit more money initially and then have to spend less money on it? I mean, a boat is a hole in the water you throw money in. We all know that part.
Yes, and we've done some videos where, especially I've gone over the numbers about how much the boat cost. But after getting the boat, there are all these costs involved. But today's video is kind of about the initial buying price, or the initial getting of the boat.
What we do have noticed in the States is that there is a pretty good, I would say, beginner boat market. So when people ask me, oh, where do I go buy a boat? I would highly recommend the States, Florida.
We're here.
From Florida to New York, and from Seattle to San Diego. Basically the two coasts of the United States. Thousands of boats for sale for every flavor, every kind. You know, if you're a traditional wood boat person, if you are the aluminium boat guy, there's plenty of that. To maybe encourage someone who's thinking of, you know, getting into the boat.
Encourage people to give these nice boats, or
give
home. Some of these boats a home.
Yes.
But also, I think it's also like a warning, because we're seeing a lot of dead boats along the ICW, and it's a sad story, of course. Wherever there's boats, you know, there's going to be some sunken boats, there's going to be some derelict boats, and I think that I would also hope in this video to give a realistic kind of idea of what you need to do once you get a boat. We're going to start with, in our budget, when we first bought our boat, kind of like what not to do. If you end up picking up a free or almost free boat, please don't do it. Please don't just pick up a free boat and then end up
okay. I wouldn't. Okay, don't abandon the boat.
Don't abandon
the boat.
But
we don't know what circumstances brought people to abandon their boat, whether it's health, whether it's financial, whether it's old age.
But we see them.
And we see boats that are abandoned, and nothing gives you more joy than to see a boat being saved. We're going to go to our favorite place to look for boats, which is Facebook Marketplace, which seems to be the easiest place to get boats, where we found we've gotten more response out of people.
Yes, because there's thousands of websites, of course, endless websites with boats for sale on them. There are free websites with free listings. Facebook Marketplace, of course, is one of these websites. The boat is up for sale for free, and you get to see the listing for free, and everybody's mostly communicative. It's easy to communicate on the platform. It's easy to send messages between each other.
We have written tons of messages on other websites, Sailboat listings, and numerous other websites, and even the more expensive ones. Like I've out of curiosity written. I asked people about $1 million boat just to know if it was actually available, and even then I've not gotten a response. So.
Well, I think it's because you get so many people getting tired of getting low balls, or like, they're trying to sell a several $100,000 boat. They want the people who are searching for those boats to be very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Please send bank statement first, and then I'll let you know if the boat is available.
Yes, they only want serious buyers. People don't want to waste their time looking for boats and responding to messages for their ads for a boat. So, of course. But in the case where you're looking on a website where everything has been free to advertise it, then the stakes are a little lower.
Yeah,
And
like
I think
Facebook, Craigslist.
so many years ago when we first said together we're going to buy a small sailboat, this is how we did it. We did use Craigslist for our boats before, but this is the process that we underwent when we bought My Way. On Facebook Marketplace, of course, you go to the little marketplace header.
And there's different, also on Facebook, there are groups. There is, boats for sale, monohulls for sale, racing boats for sale, catamarans for sale.
We have searched
Sailboat.
sailboat, and then we have filtered it to be in the area that we are.
Which is 200 miles, about.
And you can choose minimum price, max to maximum price, and of course all the other filters. But this gives you a good idea right away about some of the boats that are available.
That's not a bad one.
There's some possibilities. If I was a person right now who, like I have done in the past, I said, fuck paying rent. I'm going to live on a boat.
And then pay rent on the marina.
And then maybe pay rent to a marina instead.
Or a mooring boat, which is still substantially less than paying rent.
Which, I mean, it depends on where you are, what's happening where you are. I had dreams to travel, and also I had dreams to not pay rent anymore. Now, I want to be clear that the boats that we're going to look at today are not necessarily boats that are ocean-going boats. The first question most people have when they ask us about boats and what are good boats is they are envisioning crossing oceans. They are envisioning doing long distances on their boats. The boat that we first bought together, My Way, was not an ocean-crossing vessel. The boat is not, for most people's circumstances, a boat that you go, that's a blue water boat. I think that that's a popular idea, that's a popular concept. If you do a YouTube search, that is the popular concept. But the reality is the boat that we first bought was not that.
And the reality is that most people, especially when it comes to your first boat, the reality is that you're not going to cross an ocean when you buy a boat right away. The average sailor will spend years coastal cruising, going up and down coasts, and that's a good idea. It gets experience, it develops confidence, it develops skills. I think one shouldn't focus on saying, okay, I'm going to buy one boat and I'm going to dedicate all myself to one boat because I want to do everything. I want to cross an ocean. You can buy yourself a cheaper, smaller boat, which is what I recommend for most people do when it's their first boat. And once you've developed the skills and the confidence, some people buy themselves a slow hunker-tanker of a boat as a first boat, and then after a year or so saying, damn, I want any more than a fast boat. Some people buy a fast, racy boat and say, oh no, this boat is too fast. I wish I had a slower, safer, full-keel boat. More comfortable. It's good not to narrow your views on exactly what you want until you've actually done it. So
we have on our list under $10,000 boats. The $3,000 Catalina. You will find so many about 30-foot Catalinas on the east and west coast of the United States. What do we get for $3,000? Do we get more than we expect for $3,000? This person's really selling that it comes with a generator. They're like, dude, you're going to get a generator for $3,000. I think for us, personally, when we bought My Way, when we bought our 24-footer, we were not interested in a generator. That's because we knew that we were going to spend money on solar panels. We knew that we were going to spend money making sure that the rigging was okay, that the hull was sound.
Yeah, the hull is sound, the rigging holds up.
The boat can move.
And it's got the sails, the rigging will not fall down, and if it has a working engine, those are great bonuses.
With this boat right away, I'm wondering if it has an engine. They haven't discussed whether there's an outboard or not. So immediately, I'm seeing the rigging is standing. There are some sorts of sails in the vicinity of the boat. There's some sails. We don't know if there's an engine. Technically, if somebody's looking for shelter and the windows are not completely leaking, which there might be some clues in the photos about how much leaking of the windows there are, portholes, the port lights. We saw My Way had an engine and we saw My Way had sails, and then the communicative seller was able to take us out for a sail, and that was how we bought that boat, how we bought My Way.
And now we look at a slightly more expensive boat.
For a boat that might have potential, what I'm looking for in this case is there's just some messiness. There's just some junk around. Doesn't mean that the boat's bad. Just because you'll have to clean up a boat.
Every boat you buy for cheap would have to be cleaned up.
Just cleaning to me is not an issue. I don't know if you can wade through the junk or garbage in somebody's boat and you have a place you can get rid of it, then that's not an issue at all. Like I see like a bunch of extra cushions in here. Like we weren't looking for a television when we were looking at My Way.
Oh yeah, and this is to people who want to sell the boat. Good pictures are everything to sell a boat. Take pictures of the engine, take pictures of the mast, of the sails, of the steering, the technical aspect. Nobody cares about the TV. Nobody cares about the plates in your dining room. We want to see systems. We want to see how the boat looks like inside. We want to see what the engine looks like, what the bilge looks like, what the mast looks like.
We're seeing in the description that the boat will need new sails. There are sails in this area that you can buy, used. There are 2 engine possibilities with this boat. They say there's an outboard. The outboard bracket needs something. There was an engine shaft that you can put back in for the diesel engine, so maybe the engine is not working. This person hasn't specified.
Exactly.
So that's, again, you're going to have to be communicating with the seller. That's the most important thing, is how much communication can you get done with the seller, because this person is not answering the question of whether or not there's an engine in the boat. That is not clear. There seems to be a dinghy, so it looks like they're getting towed. But I think for $6,500, this is getting into solid deal territory.
Yes, I mean, in my thing about this boat, it's that it looks like an Iowa class. It's probably an Iowa class boat, which means it's a fast boat, which is what I like, even though it probably needs work. Lots of work.
we don't know everything about every kind of boat. Now that's where you would go onto Sailboat data and see if we can learn something about that type of boat. Since the seller hasn't given all the information, at least we could generally get an idea. A Swedish boat.
And this cross the Atlantic somehow.
It could have. It's nice to look at the draft, how deep your boat is going to be in an area like the ICW. It's good to look at your beam. A beamier boat is going to be more comfortable generally. That's one of the most general things we know. You can have a 20-foot boat, but if it's really skinny, you're not going to fit anything in it. And if it's really fat, 3 meters, more than 10 feet across is pretty beamy for this boat. And of course, all your boats in this price range are all going to be like 1970s and
1980s.
60s.
No, 60s,
80s.
no. There's no boats from the set.
My first boat was a 1960s boat. Here's a person trying to advertise a liveaboard. In terms of language use, I'm not liking that. We're trying to look for boats, like in our case, that you can sail. Not that you're just going to live aboard it, because you can also live in a cardboard box, but it has some anchors. The sellers are going to, of course, because they're selling something, are going to tell you how great the boat is and how it only needs some cosmetics and that it's very solid. The next step, which we're not going to discuss in this video, is like going to see the boat in person and seeing what is solid and what is not solid. If you're buying a boat in the $3,000 range, you're probably not hiring a surveyor. If you've never stepped foot on the boat, you should probably try to get involved with a sailing club, take sailing lessons.
Go crowing on a boat?
Yeah, find a place where somebody will let you go on their boat after you've been on other people's boats. If you like that experience and then you want to go on a boat, you want to have a boat in your life, this is like the next step after that. Okay, so here's a picture of the diesel.
Looks like a Volvo.
They've tried to hide that it's a Volvo by painting it red. Usually they're painted green.
No, but I don't think that's a Volvo.
But we don't know if the engine's working.
No, that's not a Volvo.
Is that what it's
called?
called?
A Buick Turbo.
The engine is a very difficult thing for beginners. Most people don't know how to fix an engine.
I mean, if you go buy a boat, have him start the engine in front of you. I mean, and see how hard it is for him to start the engine. That's plain and simple.
The engine may be spinning in this photo. Air conditioning, like some safety equipment is good. There's a gimbaled stove.
Bonus.
That's a bonus. When we started out with My Way, we didn't have any stove. It was a cost, like we've gone over before in many of our videos. We want to see if the steering is working. Is a complicated thing if completely fucked up. When we bought My Way, the plus with her was that it was a regular transom hung rudder, meaning that the rudder to steer your boat is just hung off the back of the boat. If you need to repair anything, like you did have a horrible situation where you had to, at sea, do an emergency repair of the rudder or a jury rig of the rudder, steering is as important as keeping the boat afloat and the boat moving. Every boat's a fixer-upper, even straight from the factory. That, not in our experience. We haven't had an experience getting a custom boat.
Fixer-upper is one thing. You will find boats that someone else has put in a lot of work and time and money. There's a whole generation of sailors that are are getting older and, have spent a lot of time and money on the boats. And
The best case scenario for especially boats, as we're speaking about under $10,000 especially, the best case scenario is to have a boat that is in the best condition that it can possibly be, even though it's an older boat, that somebody else has already upgraded or maintained. The worst case scenario is that you're going to have a total wreck that nobody, like literally a wreck is the worst case scenario. If you're lucky, you'll get something closer on the scale to what the first mentioned, which is something that somebody's babied and maintained very well. Again, a 1970s boat. It's got a long keel. I think you would call this a long keel because it's like a full keel, but it's a shallow draft looking boat. Solid looking 70s boat. Will this boat get you across oceans? That's what everybody wants to know. There's the potential in the sense that
if what's between your legs is big enough, yeah, sure.
The potential is that the boat is not a tiny little thing. It's going to need all those upgrades that ocean-going boats need to cross oceans. Rigging and time in the yard and everything. Safety gear.
Life rafts.
Everything that makes a boat expensive. This is how we began cruising, with a boat 10 feet shorter than this one. So a lot of paint and restoration on this boat.
Yeah.
They're saying it has a new shaft, cutlass bearing, and propeller, and new seacocks. So seacocks are a good thing to inspect. No matter what boat you're going for, under the waterline, there are pipes that connect to the ocean. You want to make sure those things look as solid as possible. I mean, when we got Rosa, the seacocks were gone, and there was a moment where you were not there on the boat. Before we replaced the seacocks, your mom, Celine, was there. We touched a seacock, and it crumbled away. We had to get a wooden plug, a bung, and we had to hammer that in there within a couple of minutes.
Classic. My wife and my mom sink my boat when I'm not there.
I don't think we got it on camera. I don't think that was in a video.
No, good, because I would have freaking...
Really
God
quickly.
knows what you guys were doing.
It happened really quickly, and I don't remember if I mentioned it in the video or not. It was like a 2-minute thing. It was like your mom was cleaning. I think she was cleaning something in the cabin, in the forward cabin, and the bunk and the seacock crumbled in her hands. So basically, a very sketchy connection to the water. And the water just started coming in the boat. It's got a huge downforth and a running Yanmar engine. And it comes with an anchor and a dinghy. And it's at anchor. And it's got sails. For less than what we bought my way, you can get out sailing. These are the kinds of deals I guess I was envisioning. Will you cross an ocean in this kind of boat?
No.
Probably not. I don't want to cross an ocean in the 26-foot boat.
No, I have no more.
We don't, yeah. We're not really interested in that. I mean, technically you can. There are other sailing YouTube channels who have crossed ocean in 20-something foot boats. I'd have to learn more about the 26-foot banger. I don't know anything about this, other than just looking at the photos and seeing that somebody has taken some care of this boat to replace things that are really broken. Nothing looks broken in the photos. Things that you can't tell in the photo, of course, are like, if you walk on the deck of the boat, does the deck make cracking noises?
Yeah, the soft spots. And
we could see if there's water intrusion through the windows. We could see the exact state of things. But just from looking at the photos, is the boat worth going to look at? If this is your price range.
If you're a short person.
Yeah.
I don't think it's got standing room.
26-foot boats, 24-foot boats, as we learned in our experience, are not good for taller people's backs, of course. Should we do an example of a boat that is not worth $10,000, like this one? Or is that too harsh to put in a video?
I don't know. If someone watches the video and says, "Hey, that's my boat," you motherfuckers.
Well, I saw the $1,500 laser. What can you do? You can learn how to sail, but then you have to have a place where you can store it. You can't anchor that boat and live at anchor with your boat.
Pacific Seacraft Flicka 20.
That's in the 20.
That's the example of what we're saying about an ocean-going boat that's under 20 feet. Catalina.
There are a surprising amount of over 30-foot boats for 6,000 range. Ooh.
There's a Warm.
That's not a Warm, though. It's very similar to a Warm.
I think it is a Warm.
A Thomas Fifth Jones brine shrimp.
Nice.
So I used to have a little Warm 21, a Tiki 21. It's outboard motor. It has sails. I don't know if it comes apart, this kind of boat.
It's fixed.
It's fixed together. But that's an interesting one, because if you wanted to learn how to sail a catamaran for under $100,000, For $6,000, you can learn the experience with a little less at stake. And it's got cabins. Otherwise, stilettos, for example. I see a stiletto
just
there.
above.
They're more for just racing around the bay.
And this is what everybody dreams about sailing right here. This is the dream.
Again, looking for state of the hull, the rigging. Does the boat move? Can the boat be moved from point A to point B? Can you start to learn to sail on the boat? Below $20,000. This is a very interesting category, in my opinion.
There you have a lot of boats that are between 50 and 20, and then you have the 100 to 250.
Yeah, that's
which
a
is
whole
where
other level.
which is where all the juicy ones are, where you can get a lot of boat for good money.
I guess what I'm getting at is that in the $20,000 range, you start to get into boats that you could cross an ocean. Like, realistically, it's all about comfort. When a boat is over 30 feet, you're probably you're going to be less likely to be hunched over in the boat. The boat is going to be less scary to be out in big waves. Your boat has more power. It can go faster. The water line determines, so the length of your boat determines how fast the boat can travel. If you're traveling in a 10-foot boat, that's fun and everything, but the boat cannot go as fast. A monohull will not be able to go as fast as a 40-foot boat, which starts to matter as well once you're gaining experience sailing. There are club racing boats.
Yeah, weekend racing boats.
People used to race the boats a lot more. A generation before us, people used to have their boat at the sailing club, and they'd pay monthly, yearly fees, and they'd keep their boats there. Now, let's face it, under $10,000, if you're looking for a boat that cheap, you probably are not in the price range where you can keep your boat at the sailing club for fun.
Yeah, I mean, just yesterday or the day before, a gentleman was actually giving away the same boat we had, almost. A beautiful little boat, just because he could no longer afford the slip.
Not enough people out there saying, I'll give you some money to get rid of my boat.
I've seen that 3 times since we've been here in the States already.
But, okay, if you're saying you saw it, you saw it. But I'm just saying, at this point, if the boats are costing so much to be at the marina, if it's costing monthly, and you're one of these older people who had a boat there and you can't afford the slip anymore, to hand it off to young people, you might have to start considering saying, hey, I'll give you $1,000 to take my boat. I mean, that's the reality, that a lot of club racing boats may not have homes anymore, and the people who will take on the boats may not be able to afford those slip fees either. A shrinking middle class. We took on sailing, and it takes everything we own. It takes all the money we have. We've said that before. Your budget can be anything. People's budgets are from 0 to $1 million and 100 million.
Most club boats, the good thing I find about people who have club boats in this area is they usually have lots of sails on them.
Yeah.
So they usually have 2-3 spinnakers, they have 2 mains, 3 Genoas. This 25-footer is a good bang for your buck. It's $7,500, but it's got everything. It's got a Yamaha motor that probably works. It's got music, it's got radar, depth sounder, forward-looking sonar.
Now, if you're also looking to live on the boat,
You want anchor, you want chain,
So
you
right
want a porta potty.
so right away you're going to see that boat, you're going to think, every morning I got to wake up and take a piss. I got to buy a porta potty now, or a composting head, as some of our viewers recommended,
Or install a holding tank.
Or install a holding tank. You're going to have to drop a couple $100 no matter what, just on that, on the first thing you do in the morning. Second thing you do in the morning, you want to make yourself a coffee. Now you've got to buy yourself an entire galley. You've got to buy the stove. You've got to make the stove gimbal so that everything doesn't go flying every time you try to make a coffee and people are going by in the ICW and knocking and the boat's being rocked by waves. Then the third thing you're going to do in the morning, you got to get to work. You got to get to shore. You're going to walk your dog. I don't know. Now you got to have a dinghy. The sailing club boats don't usually come with dinghies. You're going to have to drop money on a dinghy. Sit-in kayak, $100. So you're going to have to drop at least $100 on a kayak if your boat doesn't come with a dinghy.
You have to make sure
Yes.
that a good anchor, good chain, windlass if you don't want to be pulling up by hand.
Yes, if your boat's tiny, you might not have to worry about a windlass right away. But if you want to save your back, you should have a windlass. Even if the vessel is small, you should have a bigger anchor than they recommend for the boat. And it's the best insurance in our opinion. I don't know if people who are buying under $10,000 boats are insuring their boats. I think you need insurance for a lot of things around here. Well, like to haul out the boat. When we bought My Way, She was basically like a club racer. You can see it all in one shot of the entire interior of the boat. We had to make a washroom, we had to make a galley. The state of the upholstery gives you clues as to whether the boat is leaking or not, but also you want to be able to, if you're buying to live and cruise on the boat, yeah, the state of the upholstery matters. Okay, that's it for the $10,000 range. All right, so the next step is to actually go see the boat in person. The best case scenario is that the boat can be sailed, that it's in the water, and that you can test it out. Of course, you can purchase all sorts of less than $10,000 boats that are on land in the boatyard, but I would say you are outright gambling if you cannot get out on the water and test the boat before you buy it. However, very generally, if there are not holes in the bottom of the boat, if the boat is able to float, if water is not coming into the boat, the standing rigging does not look like it's about to collapse, and the engine runs and you can move your boat, these are all really good signs. This is a sign that you might be getting into something that's actually worth the money. But seeing a boat in person is a subject for another video. Let us know in the comments if you might be interested in a video about that by us, or if you totally hated the concept of us talking about our experience purchasing and getting boats, and you don't want to see that whatsoever in upcoming videos. Either way, thank you for watching. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.